there. Welcome to SEAS Backstage. This is your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. I'm your host, Troy Peters, Chief Experience Officer here at SEAS Productions, and I'm going to guide you through the world of what live event production looks like. Remember to subscribe to this podcast at seaspro.com/backstage or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Today's episode's a little bit of a retrospective. We're looking back at the year. Yes, we've made it an entire year publishing a podcast every 2 weeks or twice a month. And we're pretty excited about that. That was a goal we set last year and we hit it. And we look forward to doing this, continuing it on for as long as we can muster the topics and information that we want to share. So this is going to look back at some of our highlights, some of the things we've talked about, from security to who are all the people that are on the stage or running the show for you, to just better ways to do an RFP. But again, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for everybody that's been tuning in over the last year. And if you have ideas or thoughts about things you'd like us to speak about, please don't hesitate to let us know. This has been a really fun sort of passion project for all of us here at SEAS, and we look forward to doing more of these. So thanks very much. Here we go with a retrospective on the last year. So that's what the plan is. So tell me a little bit about how this evolved, how this idea of doing a podcast, and what you're hoping to accomplish by putting this podcast twice a month, but just kind of doing this all the time.
Yeah. So the original idea came from basically some of our clients not really knowing too much about AV. And selfishly, we thought, hey, if we can go educate them a little bit on AV and get them to the point where they're comfortable selling it, that would be beneficial for us. So we've gone to some offices and had some people here and just kind of given them some, courses on the basics. And, my point in those meetings always was like, look at me. I don't know how to work 90% of the stuff that we own here. Right. I can't get behind a console myself yet. I can walk into any meeting for whether it's a concert or a festival or, trade show or whatever, and speak intelligently about all that and really know what I'm talking about that. And it's like, if I can do that and own this company and be successful, then there's no reason that they can't. And so we started doing that, and actually it was kind of fun. So we decided to keep going.
Nice.
That comes out. So when you're building a great event, that's a critical component.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get that the day before, sometimes we get that the day of.
Yep.
And like any good thing, plans have to change. You have to maintain fluidity. I think some auctioneers, they are so bent on exactly how they do things, the form that they use, the way that they chant, where they want to do everything. There's sometimes very little room for just being able to roll with the punches a little bit, change with the flow, and go, okay, well, let's, we're going to do this first, or we're going to do that next, or there becomes a moment on stage where all of a sudden something really great happens. And instead of reacting to it and embracing it and going, wow, that's amazing. We've got this incredible donation that just came in because this person just walked up on the stage and said, hey, we're going to do this. If you're totally baked in your own process and you're not willing to change, you go, okay, cool. Like we'll do that in a minute.
Yeah.
But then that moment is gone.
Right.
Right. So many of these events are all about capitalizing on the emotion and capitalizing on the feel right then and there. And that moment can be 10 seconds. It can be 30 seconds, and then it's gone.
Next, but having my CTS really allowed me to just deal to okay, so it was volunteering, it was studying for that accreditation and that sort of thing, but it really allowed me to have an intelligent conversation with a client about screen sizes, and it was based on the knowledge that I learned there about furthest distance, closest distance. There's a ratio, there's math that you can put behind that, and so by getting that certification, it allowed me to sound a lot more educated. Maybe just sounded more educated, but it actually gives you that, like, okay, well, I do know there's rules and there's best practices, so it really does make you better at your job. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think
or whatever, but especially in the last few years when there's not enough of them to go around, I think they really care a lot to make your event as good as possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you bring up a good point too, because the shift to the freelancer can be amazing, but it also puts extra onus on that company to be able to efficiently and effectively onboard these freelancers,
Yes.
bring them into the fold, bring them into your project to
Yep.
collaborate, right? Which involves technology and tools and a process, not just kind of haphazard, because
Right.
you want that freelancer to also want to continue to work for you, right? So you have to give the freelancer a good experience
Keeping it
to
easy.
bring them into the fold as if they were one of your full-time. So I think a lot of companies have really wrestled with trying to figure out, how do we engage our freelancers more and bring them into the fold so they are working with all the same information that they need to do a good job?
Yeah. 100%.
How do you take a little bit more? Take a little bit more. And I love the first thing you said was recognize that you are overworked, and that's okay to be, and just to tell yourself that, you know what? Yeah, we're constantly making excuses of like, I'm too busy. I've been teasing the idea of creating a swear jar. That's anybody that says the word busy has to put $1 and we'll use it for a party at the end of the year. But we're almost justifying our busyness, right? By saying that. And so really owning it and saying, you know what, Troy, you are too busy. So how do we fix that?
Right. Well, that's one of the first things I teach is awareness. You've got to be aware
Perfect. Yeah.
of what's going on in your life and how it's affecting your life, and be aware of the people around you and how they're affecting your life, and be aware of your environment. Is it messy? Is it clean? Do you like it like that?
Yep.
How is it working for you? You know, would you like it better if you were facing a window as opposed to having the window to your back? You know, little things about how you even get into the car. Like, do you like what you see when you're out, when you're in your car? Like, do you want things on your dashboard? Do you want, you know, something hanging from your mirror? You know, just a lot of different things about your environment that really do play a part. So even the smell, you know, sometimes you're in a meeting, and what if we had like a votive vanilla candle, or right this time of year, maybe like an apple crisp, a cinnamon, you know, pine cone.
Right.
Like
It evokes a mood.
Exactly.
Makes you feel a certain way. Yeah.
Some people are just, you know, they're rock stars on site. My dad was always that way. It was like, no matter what happened on site, it never fazed him. Like there was, I don't know if I told you this story, but there was a show way back. We used to do all of the shows at SeaWorld. They had a stage at the entrance there where bands would play all the time.
Yep.
And they built like this little wooden closet where they wanted the amp racks and the power distro to live. And I was young. I was probably 13, 14. I used to go to this thing because they give away free sandwiches in the band trailer, and I would walk back there and steal the sandwiches.
Awesome.
I don't know. That's what I look forward to. Whatever. It's weird. But one of those shows, the cam was not. It got hot and literally caught fire. Literally caught fire in the closet.
Wow.
And my dad went in and he reached in and he yanked it out. Which, don't do that. That's a good way to get yourself killed. But even in that situation, he made it happen. The show never stopped.
Still kept going.
It kept going.
No
yeah,
kidding.
and he just that was like the most extreme example of something I could think of. But he just it takes those kind of people that they stay level-headed in the moment, no matter what's going on. You know, and you need those. Those guys are rock stars.
Absolutely. Good people cost more.
They do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know, so I came from a planner background, and I remember, you know, we did 12 or so events nationally across the country, and we would get really frustrated if I couldn't have the same crew on every show, because every show kind of builds on itself throughout the year.
Yeah.
And so you want the same person that knows, like, okay, that's the same speaker we had last month.
Yep.
They're a challenge. We need to make sure the PowerPoint's set up this way or whatever it is. There's so much value in having continuity and the right people for the job.
Right. And good people doesn't just mean technical skill, right? Yeah. I know guys that are amazing, but they are the wrong fit for certain jobs.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, there's an engineer I could say right now who he is that I will never let speak to a client, but I want him on every single show because he sees the matrix, right? Like he doesn't know how to interact with people, but he can fix any problem that might come up.
We all know guys like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So that. Right. Yeah.
That's great. And you speak a lot about scalability, right? And that's a good example of that same approach that we took for that client. Had always hired one company to do the general session and one company to do the breakouts, but we went in and pitched for both and asked the question, why not, right? But we put a project manager, we learned, pulled that information, learned what was the pain points or what was the critical piece of those breakout rooms. And we found out through, good due diligence and having the right questions,
Right.
was that a huge portion of the people that are presenting and in those rooms, it's a big engineering corporation, speak German. So we found a project manager, a freelancer that I've known for years that speaks fluent German, worked for, one of the evil empire companies in Germany for many years. And we just put him in the RFP right off the top and said, this is and literally in the presentation said, this is your Swiss Army knife. This is the guy who can do it all and speaks the language.
And that's exactly the kind of research that our sales community needs to do a better job of.
Yep.
Right. Look at your customer. Watch their videos from last year events. They're on YouTube somewhere.
Yep.
There's so much information out there, so you can figure out where their pain points might be. They may not even realize them until you say, "Here's something that we do, which I think will make your meeting better." They go, "Oh, you're right. We really sucked at that."
Right.
So we need to do that research, but responding to an RFP, doing that comparison so that we can demonstrate value. So I love what you guys did with that. Your case study here is that you gave them, here's what you can do for your budget. Here's what you could do if you had a little bit more budget, which is exactly what good event planners should be asking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there was little hesitation on spending the extra, which was really great. The last thing is, we capture all this information. You've got all this thing as a client, and then you've got to put it somewhere. What do you recommend for, some clients, some associations have their own library in-house where they've got everything hosted off a server based somewhere that people can go and pull information from or watch videos from. What do you recommend for somebody? Maybe we're just starting to get into this. We want to try capturing for the first time. What do you suggest? Do they create a YouTube page? Some guidelines there?
Yeah. All of that stuff is out there. There are simple ways to do it. YouTube, Vimeo. If you're just getting into it, creating your own is probably a tougher ask. And that's where, something like our breakout system could work. Where
you guys can host as well.
The library is here. We can host it. It's ready for you. But
okay.
I've seen many clients just go at it on their own. It's a little scrappy that way, I guess. But I don't know, there's something to appreciate in that too.
Sure. Yeah. That's how we learn, right?
Yeah.
That makes me talk about is, so we are both we are both seasoned event professionals. Let's just use that.
I love that.
If you were thinking of somebody that's maybe at our level that has been in the business for some time, some years, where is the value and how should they make that first step if they've I've been aware of these organizations, but what should I do? How do I find this? How do I get involved later in your career? So if it's example for me, I'm, counting down the point, it's still a ways off, but counting down to where I get to retire. But I really, in this period, and it's, recent job change and things, was because I wanted to open up my life to be able to give back and sort of bring up that next generation through our company, but then also industry wide, as the sort of last chapter of my professional career. So for others that are at our level, but are looking to where do I start? What do you suggest?
Well, I think the first thing I would do is take a look around you. Are there people that you see in your day-to-day at work or in your industry or even online? We have a huge resource of, social media and LinkedIn. Are there people out there that you say, I really want to know their secret sauce, or,
Right.
I really admire that person. How do I get there? It's as simple as asking a couple of questions, what do you recommend for me? So I believe in mentorship 110%. It's a huge and important part of being a professional and where you should take yourself.
Agreed.
If it wasn't for Ed Scannell and Roger Rickard, I would not have joined MPI. So I consider them my Arizona meeting professional mentors. About 5 years back during the pandemic, I reached out to Stephanie Nowak from the Tempe Tourism Office, retired. And I said, I really want to be you when I grow up. Will you be my mentor? And so I think mentorship and asking people, what organizations have you been a part of and how did you make your leadership steps and what do you recommend for me? Because it's not the same path for everyone.
Yeah.
And those people that you admire or that you're looking up to or that seem to be in the know are the people that you should be asking where to start because they're probably in a similar interest group or a similar industry to you. But I really just think it's about reaching out and asking questions and finding what organization, if it's an industry organization, best matches your role. Because
And I guess what I would say, if I could tell your listeners, is that if you want bigger, you got to think bigger.
Yeah.
And so you were the one person in my journey, as I am in ballrooms, I do speak in ballrooms. I had never had a connection. When I work with the AV team at the back, when I'm in these ballrooms, I give them my slide deck or I give them my PowerPoint, and then I hope to heck they will do as I want them to do.
Yep.
And I've never built that relationship. You were the one person in my life that I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. And so we started talking about if I want to elevate my game, if I want to get on a stage that Bill Clinton was speaking at, or if I want to be as big as the Super Bowl, what do I need to do that? And so we were originally going to do it in November. And I pulled the plug and I said, you know what? I'm not ready. Because what I didn't have is the story. I didn't have the script. And although me and my team churn out training programs, like I can build curriculum as easy as I can breathe. Like it is easy for me. But a keynote is a production. It is a story that you take the audience through and I speak on emotional intelligence, so it's got to be an emotional journey. And I just realized that as much as I've been doing this for 20 years and 25 years as a teacher, I needed to build the story. So I said, you know what? I'm not ready. Can we put a pin in it and let's wait? And so 3 months later, now we're in February, we have our script. What we did is we worked with a keynote writer. Then we worked with a keynote director. And then
There was an event that I did recently where we went in, we were on the site visit with the client, and in-house was there to be with us, was a client we'd already had for a few years. And we were looking at the ballroom, and the in-house AV company was, so stage goes here, kind of telling us what we were going to do. Stage goes here. We do 2 screens here, and this is the way we lay it out. And I'm looking at the room, and I'm like, okay, but everybody's entering from the side, which is just not the best reveal, right? Yeah. Nice general session. You want people to come in from the back, see the screens, see the stage, and look forward like you're walking into a concert. And I was like, well, why wouldn't we want to set the room wide? So, people are coming in from the back, and their response was, yeah, but our power's over here. And I'm just like, that is not the direction.
It's easy.
Do you just
it's
easier? We just do it this way. And it's like, no, 100 feet of cable will move the power right over here.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. And we did it the way we wanted to do it because we wanted to deliver that experience. And then we wanted the attendees to come in and be wowed as soon as they walked into the room, instead of walking in and going, oh, neat. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not how we want it to be.
Right. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, especially a lot of planners, are very, very scared of technology when it comes to the event world. I think a lot of planners think that technology is going to replace them at some point. I do not agree with that at all. I believe as a planner, technology just enhances every single event that I do, and I use it as a companion. I don't think of it as competition at all with anything.
It's another tool in the toolbox, right? Even AI. We've embraced AI here at SEAS Productions fully, where we will create content for clients and we will pull it out of the AI, and then we manipulate it where we need to. But it's sped up our process, like by hours, if not days, for when we need to create something. We can start it with AI, and then we put it into whatever creative tools we then have to use. But it is just another tool in the toolbox as we move along.
It is. It helps you be so much more productive in just your everyday. There are so many tasks in the event production world that are so repetitive you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, if AI can do that for you in 3 minutes or less,
Yep. Why not?
why not? Why would you want to
Yes.
spend 3 hours doing something when you can get it done in 3 minutes? Like, that's 2 hours of more than 2 hours of your time that you get back
Yeah.
to do something else, or 2 hours of your time that you can use to come up with something really cool and creative for your client. You know, you're not spending all your brain power on a mundane task.
Yep. Then it's easy to forget about that when you're at the end of the show and you're done and it's been a couple days and you're like, oh, did we have overtime that day? I don't remember. And
So for me, my like tips and tricks would be on site. It's what I used to do. And I did this a little on the current show that we're discussing. Didn't have to as much because, again, I was blessed to have a pretty decent team on my end and I didn't have to worry about too much. But I would just talk to my phone and take notes that way.
oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Because if I'm sitting here and I'm typing on my phone, taking notes, and now I have crew looking at me going, well, he just got on me for being on my phone instead of, right?
Yeah.
And this was
Perception.
the same when I was in the warehouse. It's the same thing. Was I would try to, set the example by not sitting there on my phone, sitting down.
Yep.
Right. Whether I'm building the LED wall or not, I'm standing there. I'm not sitting in front of house.
Perception. That
Oh,
goes
100%.
right in line with your, having that positive energy, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of how you might be being viewed and,
I like
and
to
those
think
sorts
of
of
it-
things to keep people like, he's still working, I got to keep working, right?
Sure.
Or like, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like.
Well, I've been doing it for 30 years, like freelancing myself for 30 years. So I know, first of all, that most freelancers are awesome, right? Because they're only as good as their last gig. If you're not that good with a personality with clients of all different types, you don't last long in our industry and you'll fade away. So they get the benefit of the doubt, first of all, but no one will ever go on show site unless I know them or that I know somebody that knows them and recommended them, or I've done this with them. And I do that with every single freelancer. If I don't personally know you, you're getting on a Zoom with me and we're going to talk about it. And I'll drive them through scenarios of, so you're running graphics and your backstage doors are open. Here's a thumb drive. What are you going to do? I like to hear them tell me what they're going to do. Or stage managers, I also will give like little trick questions to them that I want to hear how they respond to that so I get to know them. But when it's a big personality that I know they're going to be working with, I also always let the client interview the contractors, especially in a producer position. That's huge. They got to fit the jam and the vibe with the client. So I often will line up a handful of producers and hand them to my client and go, why don't you interview and talk to them and see? And I've been surprised sometimes on the person that they chose when I was really thinking they're going with this one. And they're like, no, we just didn't jive. And I'm like, well, interesting. Yeah.
That's great. You really connecting them beforehand, giving them like, here, let's talk to this person and see. Yeah. Make sure they're the right fit.
Some roles, it's a no-brainer. It's easy. And clients will say, Nancy, you just pick them. You know, they know I'll
this
choose
person's
mine.
done a sports-centered thing or awards program. So that's the person that knows how to fit and run that role, right? So,
Yeah. And then sometimes I want them to meet them, especially producers, when they're going to be interacting a lot with the agency. If it's like, 200 hours of pre-pro or whatever, you got to have the right fit.
Yeah.
Someone to call some cues, I can get you a really good show caller who I know is good with everybody and a great personality.
I love that. Thanks everybody for watching. This was SEAS Backstage, your all access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. This was a great episode full of highlights and things we've done over the last year. Again, if you have topics or questions you want to ask or things you'd like us to speak about, or you'd like to be a guest on the show, please don't hesitate to let us know. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at seaspro.com/backstage or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Thanks, everybody.